We're going to get started. I have started the recording, so we will post that after it's been complete. I have a lot to get through, so without further ado, welcome to the first release of 2023, formerly known as spring. We are aware that it's not spring anymore, so we're going to address that within this meeting as well. The agenda to get through, there's quite a bit. We're just going to talk about our release schedule, as I mentioned. We're going to talk about what's in the first release of 2023 from a new feature standpoint. And then we're going to talk about the Avocado user group and next steps. So I want to acknowledge, like I've said already once, that it's not spring anymore. I wanted to give a bit of an explanation. After the release of Salesforce's spring release, not our spring, but Salesforce's spring release, and our release of winter, we did notice a lot of performance-related issues. Namely, those came from experiencing huge performance issues during high-volume usage, namely the registration days. And this caused many different issues within the system, and it was quite a task to understand what was happening. And that resulted in us having to focus a lot of effort on patching, monitoring, and making sure that we were addressing those performance issues. We're still not out of the woods. We're still working very diligently on those performance related issues. However, it also resulted in a lot of patches to the winter release. And a lot of those were focused, kind of injected because we didn't want to wait for a future release to have to actually give you guys these new enhancements in performance. We couldn't wait. So we ended up just putting them on patches to the end of the winter release. Our development team, though, did continue, and I want to make sure that I'm very clear. We did continue with our normal flow of a sprint every month. So our normal development cycle continued while we did this. We just didn't release those into our QA environment or release them to yourselves. We're now catching up on that. We're committed to 4 releases this year still. And I'll give you a bit of a review of what that looks like here. Some people may choose to not release, as an example, and release and wait for the 3rd release to do them together, and that's perfectly acceptable. We're still doing them in the same cycle, though, to make sure that we can give you those releases individually should you need them, or together if you want to wait for them. Because as you can see, the release dates are relatively close to each other now. We've rescheduled them, trying to get ourselves back on track with this, and we've cleverly renamed them to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd release of 2023, and get us back on the seasonal releases. So that's a bit about how we're making out. We have completed our normal sprints, like I mentioned. So all the work up till the autumn release from a development cycle is done. The QA, we've already started. We QA'd spring, which we're releasing right now. We're QAing summer, and we'll start to QA the fall release as it's complete. So more to come on that. I have a little bit of information at the end about our system development lifecycle and our roadmap and how we're going to communicate this in a more open manner to you guys in the future. So without further ado, dive into our normal release presentation, and then we'll come back to this at the end. Just a quick review of our implementation cycle. We always suggest and want you to deploy it to your sandbox first. Every one of our customers, everyone that's using Avocado, uses it slightly different. So we want to make sure that we're addressing how these changes would impact your environment. Then once we get approval from you, we will move it to production. There's over 20, I think 23 to be exact, new features in this release, and a lot of bug fixes. I think the number is about 35. We broke them out as we normally do into different areas. So for example, the new user interface in the Avocado menu has the following features that have been released, and I'll walk you through those one by one. So one of the first features, 118900, during a payment processing, there was still an opportunity, which our users found it, to navigate away from that page. So we increased the size of what we call the overlay, so forcing a user not to click on anything else on the page while we're processing payments. So that was kind of a bug fix, but it was something that we thought was worth mentioning to you. The second feature that's in this area is around updating the order refund process. So we added a column. So in certain situations with large orders, mostly in the facility booking area, but it can happen in other areas as well. If you have two or multiple lines that have the same description, so you're selling multiple items of the same description, it can get confusing. So it was requested that we add the order item number to the refund screen. So that order item number is the native Salesforce.com order item number, and will help everyone understand what they're refunding. We added an amount remaining to the orders screen in the Avocado menu. So when you used to look at the order screen, it only showed you the original order amount, not how much is outstanding or remaining to be paid for that in that quick view. So you had to go into each order to figure that out. So now it's showing you the amount remaining on that macro view. The next feature we added was to indicate on the Avocado menu if an account exception is blocking access or registrations. So there's an indicator now on the account exceptions that will indicate whether it's blocking account exception or not. You don't have to go into the account exception to see if it's blocking their access or registrations. This is more of an administrative task, but it's something we also want to make sure we communicate them all. Up till now, in the Avocado menu, when you were putting in a program, we had different terminology for the registration, returning registrant start date. So we just matched it to what was in the back end. So it was named something slightly different, and we now are using the same terminology across both the back end and in the front end in the Avocado menu. The next one, when you were on an order, whether it was a new order or an existing order, and you pulled up that order to pay in the point of sale or in the Avocado menu, it typically selected just the first item or none. So now what we do is we defaulted to select any amounts past due, and if there are no amounts past due, it will automatically select the earliest or the next payment available. So it's just basically, if you have a whole bunch of past due on an order, it makes it a lot simpler to not have to go in and select all those. The next one is around financial assistance applications. And when you had put a question on your financial assistance application that required a text area long, so more than just a little bit of a text area or a statement, it really didn't display correctly in this view. You had to go in to see what that actual response was. So as you can see, most of the answers are just here on the right hand side. So when it's a text long now, it shows underneath a text long question. It'll show underneath the question, allowing you to put in a long area of text and see that at a macro view. So that's it for the Avocado menu enhancements. There's also a lot of enhancements and upgrades that were put into the Avocado portal. So I'm going to dive into that next and walk you through each one. So the first enhancement, which I believe was requested by Azim and our friends at NAB, was to not show non-member price for programs that are not available for non-members. So if a program is set for members only, so in other words, subscription only is set to true, then it won't show the non-member price anymore. It only shows the member price. So basically we're dialing in to not show information that to lead someone to believe that they could buy this as a non-member. The second one was we had made some changes to the membership flow, I believe in fall or winter of last year. In most of the areas, you could just click on the item that you're purchasing and it would automatically send you to the next step in the flow, but it didn't do it for the location. So now when you're buying a membership, each area along that flow, when you select your the answer you want for that flow, it'll automatically take you to the next step in the flow, not requiring you to click next. So it's just a smoother transition for the customers. We added error message to the Avocato portal that'll display when a user clicks on a waitlist link that has expired. So in the past, if you sent someone a waitlist email and it expired, it just told them they couldn't register. And we just updated that to tell them that their link has expired so they know why they can't register. We also added in some error handling on large file uploads. So Salesforce does have some limits on how large the files can be, and we've just put in some error handling that allows us to override the message through a communication file, custom setting, to advise why we're not able to upload this image. So you can put in your own error message handling, or we can actually type it in for you. This next one is something that we've heard from quite a few people, and that's around when you register for something, we always had the ability to view your schedule on the portal, but it was fairly unclear if you're registered or waitlisted, and some people were concerned or getting feedback that they thought they were registered because they saw it in their calendar. So we've put in a table, a legend, and an indicator whether you're on a wait list or whether you're registered for the particular program. So it does show you wait lists in your schedule, but they're fairly well indicated that they are a wait list item now. The next one is around a mobile view for my bookings for facility booking, and it always displayed slightly different. So this is really just making it match the other areas of the Avocato portal with the card view. So you'll notice now that your bookings will show in a card view, just like your programs and your memberships. More to come about portals in a few more minutes. So obviously, this is just the spring. We have a lot of other development that we've been doing. For the membership changes that we've put into play, the first one is really just a validation rule. And again, more to come on this at the end of this, but when you set up a term-based membership, if you make the end date, it stops you from putting the end date in before the start date. So basically just very, very generic error handling in the back end. More to come on that. We also introduced a great new feature, which is the ability to put maximum capacities on membership packages. So a few of our clients, I think RAC had been the first that we heard this from, required to limit the number of memberships that they sold. We had never heard that before. Most of the Avocato customers sell unlimited number of memberships, but there are situations where you want to limit the number of memberships. This allows you to put a capacity on it, and it can be configured in several ways. It does show on the portal the available memberships, much like a program registration or a program slot would show, and can be set because we don't have this concept of the checkout limit. Like a reservation of a program, we've had to add in that shopping cart type functionality where you can put in a set number of amount of time that we're going to hold that spot for before we expire that cart. So that had to be added in, again, because in the past, if they added a membership to their cart, we didn't expire it. Thank you, Corey. We'll make sure we update that. And then another feature that was requested around memberships was for a punch pass. In the past, when you used an access, it still honored the rules that if you had already used an access or a punch pass that day, it wouldn't use a second one. It would just record an event that you used the same punch pass twice in one day. Whereas this feature now, where you can check off that you want to count it as a swipe, will actually use a second punch pass. So in the past, you had to go and modify your access control if you wanted to use 2 punch passes on one card in the same day. Now you can just check off this box and it'll use a second punch pass. For programs and instance changes, we do have the ability now to show program and instance forms. I apologize, I'm on the wrong task. For program and instance changes, we added the ability to show packages during your registration flow. So in the past, if you used packages, you had to select the program that you're registering for, and then you would see the package under all the other instances. So basically, this just brings it up one level where you can select the package as you're going in to register for it, rather than selecting a program and then having to select the package. So up one level. And then there's quite a few order and finance changes. I'll walk you through those right now. The first one that we added was the ability to update all future payments to a new payment method, whether you're in the Avocado menu or in the portal, and those can be turned on and off for each environment. You can now update, rather than going into each order or replacing a credit card, you can just update every future scheduled payment through this interface. So much like you used to be able to, or you still can, update all the payment methods in an order, you can now do it across orders using the outstanding payments interface in the menu. In addition to that, you can turn it on in the portal and allow your clients to update a future payment to a new payment method. You can have, there's a configuration that allows you to set how many days in the future they can do that for, so people don't mess around with it the day of a payment being taken. So it can be controlled in that way, and it can be turned off. In addition to that, there was a feature added at the request of GPY to put in a pre-assigned payment method. So essentially what this allows you to do is say, for all any orders in a certain division, use this payment method. And then it'll default to that payment method when you buy or purchase or register for something in that division. And that can be set on both the menu and in the portal, and it can be turned on and off in each. This is really just a cleanup task. In one of the patches that we released, because of the performance issues we were having, we had to stop people from reprocessing the same order multiple times. Because of the speed issues that we experienced, people were refreshing their screen and then reprocessing, in some cases, the same order a second time. So we controlled that during one of those patches, but because it was a patch, we couldn't add in a proper field that allowed us to control that. And really, this is just cleaning it up, putting in the proper field so that we know that a certain order is mid-transaction when we lost connectivity with the client. Engagement, there was only one enhancement that we made, and that was to allow program and instance forms to be shown on the Engage interface. So up till this time, you can only see contact and account-based forms. Now we have the ability to add or to see my program and instance forms through the Engage interface. And because of that, you'll notice that we had to add some filters that allow you to filter what you want to see, because obviously there'd be too many forms there by adding these. So it allows you to select what type of form you want to see, what instance you want to see them for, all or a certain individual, and then what form on that instance you want to actually view. There's another enhancement that we did add that didn't really have a home, so it was about using organizational-wide email addresses. Up till this release, the membership registration on the menu and the portal didn't use the org-wide addresses, and now it does. So that's it for the enhancements. There were a lot of bug fixes. As you know, we don't typically go through all the bug fixes, but they are in the release notes, which if you don't have a copy, we can make sure you get a copy of the release notes. And they're all detailed in that release note documentation. So by all means, if you have questions about that, please reach out to us or either support or your account manager, and we'll make sure that we address any questions you have. So that's it for the first release of 2023. Like to talk about what's next coming up. You know, summer's over. We want to get back on track with our Avocado user groups. So couple things we'd like to share is there are a lot of new features coming in spring or in summer slash the second release of 2023 and autumn, the third release of 2023. Just some highlights to help you understand what's coming. We added price groups and member pricing to facility booking. We added the ability to expand in entitlements when the membership is not true. So if you're selling subscriptions that aren't memberships, you can now use entitlements. We added the ability to control security at a more granular level in the menu. We got down pretty far. I'm sure there's going to be a couple more iterations of this, but right down to certain buttons on those particular pages and forms you can control. And if there's additional requirements, we have a framework in place to accomplish that with fairly easily and fast. We have a huge amount of portal registration flow enhancements. So there's a great upgrade coming to how registrations work. And I believe that was worked on with Azim from NAB. We're very thankful for that. And, you know, I think everyone will benefit from a lot of these flows. We did create an audit widget for registrations. So up till now, we recognize that there's, you know, a lot of setup, and it was very challenging to set up your programs and audits correctly. So we created this audit widget that allows us to actually see it in real time and to report on it. So as you put in into your system instances and programs, it'll actually allow us to real-time audit it and make sure that it's correct. We added a deep link generator button. So for those that have tried to integrate to third-party systems and try to figure out how to what link to send to your customers or to integrate to your third-party web interface, it was always a bit of a challenge because it's not easy to create deep links. So basically, we tried to take that away and right on your program, your instance, every area that you can link into, put buttons on those objects that shows you the link and allows you to actually just copy paste it. Obviously, this isn't an exhaustive list. There's a lot more in summer, but these are just the highlights. And then we did add the ability for an expiration on an account exception. So put an account exception on the account until a certain time. So just a few highlights. Again, lots more to come, and I believe we're scheduling the release presentation for the second 2023 release in mid-September right now. So we'll get back to you about that. From a user group standpoint, we acknowledge that there are a few individuals that are really wanting to see the NPSP user group. We do see that as a bit of a round table. We weren't prepared enough to present that. There was a couple things that came up that we found it would be a good use of our time. So we are actually scheduling it for October 18th to give us enough time to actually present correctly how others are using MPSP and get enough of the user group presenting that. So in the meantime, one of the things that we've heard loud and clear from you guys is you guys would like to understand our roadmap and what we're working on rather than finding out after the fact what we've worked on. We've been working on that for some time, and we're going to suggest that the next user group be September 13th, and that we present our roadmap and present how we come to that roadmap, what our policies and procedures around that are, so that you guys understand how you could potentially influence that roadmap. So really, we titled that as our product development life cycle, and our goal will be to explain that all to you and make sure that you're clear on how that works. So those are the two user groups that we do see presenting in the next 2 months. With summer being over, we do see that we want to schedule one per month like we did in the past. Just a couple things about the roadmap that I will preamble and make sure that you're aware of. Our goal is to not just expose our roadmap, but to expose the areas of development, the tasks. Some of you guys have seen some of this in your Asana projects, but our goal is to expose it to everyone. So you will see the exact tasks that developers are working off of before they work on them. So basically, you'll see the requirements, you'll be able to comment on it and make any notes that you want to make to give us any direction that you feel we should have. We'll also be exposing our prioritization policy and how we plan out our future sprints. So it's not just a matter of how to, what we're doing, but how we came to the conclusion that these are the items to work on. And we'll explain in detail that in the user group. And that's all we had for you today. I appreciate everyone's time. Please know that we will send out this video recording, and then as always, if there's a request to get the Spring installed in your environment, it'll come through to your account manager. Thank you. Thanks, Azim. Hope everyone had a good summer and continues. Thank you, everyone. It is good to, even though I didn't see everyone's face, it's good to see your text pop up. Reminds me of all the great people that we're working with.